Our next guest appeared on the show in its right now incarnation way back in 2022, which feels like a lifetime ago too. Gregory Paul Martin is a writer, an actor, and the eldest son of the Beatles producer, Sir George Martin. Gregory is also an astrologer who, it seems, predicted King Charles's illness announcement some time ago. Gregory, welcome back. I want to talk about the media and their modes of character assassination, to destroy people's credibility, because I know you've faced that yourself. But I have to ask you about King Charles and how you knew this was coming.
Well, it's without being, it's quite complicated. Astrology is in-depth psychology, and the chart is a map of the, unfoldment of your destiny. And there's certain things that are definitely fixed, for example, death and illness. But without going into all the details, it was just very clear that this was going to happen. Just as I was very clear about the Queen's passing, the timing of that, it was going to happen around about now. And that it would be, I believe, from what I see in the chart, and, there's very few things I've ever been wrong about. And probably the reason I'm so good about this is it's not my profession. It's a passion. I never expected to be talking about this, on a public forum before, because all my clients generally come to me by referral through my entertainment business. It's a personal thing. But, I'm very, very accurate. So I believe that this is much more serious than we think, or we're being told, because they're trying to control what they perceive will be like shock and chaos, and that he will pass very soon, very quickly, and very suddenly. So, I can, but I'll be talking to you for like an hour if I explain the details in the chart. There are certain things that indicate the passing of a human being, and I've been talking about Bill Gates having colon cancer for a long time. And in Gates' chart, he's not going to be around much longer either, thankfully. And but it'll take longer for him. And you see, with both these people, they're Scorpios. Charles and Gates are both Scorpios, which is a highly secretive sign. They both have similar indications, as, by the way, does Fauci. And people can say to me, okay, so Fauci's 80 whatever, and Gates is getting up there, and Charles is 75. But it's just, the accuracy of this is really fascinating to me. Also, it's very clear, just to speak to Gates, of course, you don't need to be a rocket scientist to be told this or to know anything about astrology, but he's very, very fucked up person. And you can see that very clearly in the chart. The psychopath is a perfect word for all these people. And secretive, so secretive. It's like, crazy.
Is everything plotted out beforehand then, in terms of astrology? Because you said, in terms of things like death. Because I'm thinking... That makes sense then why Keith Richards could do what he wants and live like that, and then you've got someone who's a health freak who collapses at 45.
Yeah, well, that's true. I mean, there are certain things that are definitely predestined and certain relationships that are predestined, but within that framework, you have total free will. And with Keith, he just wanted to live his, God bless him, wants to live his life that way. And it is character, is destiny. So in that sense it is. But you brought up a very good point about predetermination and free will, because I want to talk about, in this call, about black magic. And you see, because this definitely refers to these psychopaths and devils, because in my opinion, these people are demonically possessed. And I'd like to read a short piece from a lecture by Rudolf Steiner, the great mystic and the founder of the Waldorf schools, which he wrote 100 years ago, when he's predicting what's happening now with the vaccine. And he's talking about, the fall of the spirits of darkness. These people are demonically possessed. So if, for example, I know for a fact, because I've dealt with it my whole life, because I've had black magic embedded in my family, and it's often in very, very powerful, famous families. There's one person who is, literally so dark, they just use this all the time secretly. When you can see in a chart great success, a period of tremendous success and an unfoldment and money and joy and abundance, which you can see as clearly as you can see death. If it doesn't happen, the odds are someone's practicing black magic against them, because the black magic interferes with the unfoldment of the destiny. I believe, beyond a shadow of a doubt, that COVID-19 was the highest practice of the dark arts ever in the history of mankind. And I believe that all these people Most of these people know exactly what they're doing, and it's just, they're just literally demonically possessed. You just have to listen. Go on, so you go.
How do we beat that then, Gregory, do you think?
Well, we beat it by what we're doing now. And we beat it by waking up and realizing, what things like what we're talking about. And by the way, if somebody, feels that, if you feel you have this personal black magic thing being worked against you, you just have to find somebody, you can track somebody down the internet who can deal with it for you and use your intuition and your judgment as to, are they the right person for you to, because there are on that level, there are people who practice white magic to deal with the black magic, or that's that. But on this level, look, it is, in terms of the global level, when you're saying how do we deal with it, we deal with it by doing exactly what we're doing, by never allowing ourselves to become depressed, by never going to the dark side. I love what you said in the intro about people celebrating the death of Charles, which is so, completely wrong. That is completely wrong. And to realize that we've been conscripted, all of us have been conscripted unwillingly, sorry to use that word, but it's true, into, the ultimate holy battle. And that, the right and good shall prevail. It shall prevail. I mean, you're doing all you can. You're doing everything you should be doing. And you just have to keep the faith. These people are going to self-destruct, if you like.
I hope you're right. I hope you're right, Gregory. I agree with you, though. I believe that as well. I'm full of confidence in terms of good defeating evil. I've watched enough Hollywood films to know that's exactly how it happens in the end, so it's fine. On the subject of character assassination, because obviously that ties into all this as well. Tell us about your experience and how they basically try and destroy the story, don't they, by destroying the person that's sharing it?
Oh, of course, your dad's been through this, and I mean, Russell Brand's a great example of this. I mean, I really, really feel for him because it's so obvious what that is. So, yeah, in 1999, I went through a really bizarre experience and it was actually like silly season in August where there is no news. So I was on the front page of the Daily Mirror and the Sun, and also News of the World, and also, mainstream papers. And it's amazing because if somebody wants, in my case, there was one person, a woman who I'd crossed without thinking about it when I was stupid. I was just dumb. I didn't realize how powerful she was. It was just as before the internet, so I hadn't researched who she was. She happened to be the most wanted, or third most wanted party guest on Tatler's stupid list of 100 people. I didn't know that. Anyway, when you have somebody funding something like that, they'll literally, if they're connected to papers, which they generally are. In my case, it was Nigel Dempster of the Daily Mail, the gossip columnist. They'll just here, I'm going to pay you this, just get him. And they'll literally make up stories, and they'll find people in your past with whom you do have a connection, and they'll pay them. In my case, it was like £25,000 back then, or £50,000 for my assistant who I'd fired. They'll pay them that money, and for them to make up a story that has just enough of the truth in it, and not enough direct libelous accusations. To sell newspapers. I mean, simple as that. That's how it works. And it is simply about selling newspapers and destroying somebody's reputation. That it is absolutely evil. It's the worst example. It is black magic without the ceremony.
Yeah. Well, I can vouch. When I was a kid and they were going for my dad big time in the early 90s, I had some friends on the Isle of Wight. I'm a bit of a social chameleon, me, Gregory. I'll get on with rich kids and poor kids and everyone in between, whatever. And so what they did is the media targeted my friendship group, but they only targeted the ones who didn't have very much money in terms of the family. And they offered money to my friends' parents to take money to say bad things about my family. And none of them took the money, which is testament to them. But I can vouch for that. It is as dark as it gets, isn't it?
Well, oh, it's horrible. It's horrible. And there's a phrase for it. It's like they're flying monkeys. They're, from Wizard of Oz. They try to make people flying monkeys who are just allies that just want to attack you and get their rocks off because they feel insignificant or whatever. And I've been going through a similar thing recently in my personal life. A very, very important relationship went belly up last year, and it was just very, very painful. And I found out that the person was not only practicing black magic in this instance, but which I had to deal with, but also had poisoned my relationship with a really, really really a deep, deep relationship with a member of the FBI who's a consultant on a book I've been writing, a novel about a serial killer. I mean, this man and I go way back, and I stayed in this house 4 times, and suddenly he stopped speaking to me. And I realized what had happened, that somehow this person had gotten to his wife. And it's that kind of thing. But with a newspaper thing, it's on a much bigger level. And unfortunately, because people are naive, and of course, that's how they got away with COVID, and they're still trying to get away with it. It takes a long time for people to realize, oh, that's actually, he must be bad. He must be, give a dog a bad name, right?
But I think people judge by their own actions, don't they? I find that a lot. So you'd look at, say, 9/11, the idea of bringing towers down and killing thousands of people. You go, no, they wouldn't do that. It's like, no, you wouldn't do that.
Right.
That's the thing. That's where people struggle, I think.
Oh, absolutely. And that's why I wanted to come on the show now to talk about evil archetypal. Because what I'm doing is I'm also writing a book about a member of my family, my stepmother, Lady Judy Martin, her name was, married to Sir George Martin, the Beatles producer. And she was absolutely a black witch. My father used to joke about it. And I was the main target because I was a truth teller within the family. And she did a bang-up job with me until I discovered what was going on. And, an example of that, by the way, is during all this 9-month, year-long, crazy, meaningless scandal, I was basically branded as, like the Mick Jagger of whatever, like the man who slept with 1,000 women, the cat of the century. She actually called my sister one day, my older sister, and this is like 3 days before an article appeared saying this. So she was giving it away. She said, isn't it awful what they're saying about Greg and marrying for his American green card when he was in his 20s? Isn't it awful they're saying this? The article hadn't even appeared yet. So she was the source of the smear. So it's like, it's really, but this thing is, one has to understand, as you've just said and your dad said, you wouldn't do it, but they would. This is the big awakening. This is the big awakening. And by the way, there's a guy called Daryl Anker. I don't know if you know Daryl Anker. He'd be a great person to have on your show. He's a medium,
okay,
a channeler, and you know him, right?
I don't know, but it's someone to look up for sure.
Daryl Anker, Daryanka. He's the real deal. He's a great guy, and what he says is, really the reason we're in this place now is because everything is on the table right now. All the ultimate bad, all the ultimate good, and literally we're at a point of a splitting of realities. In other words, if you, and again, this is hard to get your head around too. I get it, but I know a lot of people have a hard time. If you stay on your course, this course you Gareth are taking, you will be in a new reality very, very soon. And all this demonic shit will be gone. And this is not pie in the sky, airy fairy, like I just wish it'll happen. I'm telling you, it's the truth. And this is why I was, I think, so effective with people during the pandemic, because people had lost hope. It was the isolation was terrible. If you read Steiner, who was a great mystic, and again, the founder of the Waldorf schools, what he was saying is so fascinating because I'll just read a brief excerpt. It's like 100 years ago in 1917, he gave a lecture called The Fall of the Spirits of Darkness. And this is 5 years after the first international conference on eugenics. And he's referring to it in this speech. He says, the time will come, and it may not be far off, when quite different tendencies will come up at a congress like the one held in 1912, that was the eugenics, and people will say it is pathological for people to even think in terms of spirit and soul. Sound people will speak of nothing but the body. It'll be considered a sign of illness for anyone to derive the idea of any such thing as a spirit or a soul. The spirits of darkness are now among us, and they're going to inspire their human hosts in whom they will be dwelling to find a vaccine that will drive all inclination towards spirituality out of people's souls when they are babies and children. And this will happen in a roundabout way through the living body. And, this is why they were targeting babies and children with a vaccine, which is the most insane aspect of it all, of an insane thing. I mean, that is just, right?
Yeah, it was insanity.
And then when you put that alongside what Harari's saying, I mean, that's exactly what Harari's saying. There is no spirit anymore. There is no soul. We can hack the body, right?
Yeah, it's so true. And also even even on a lesser level, I mean, people are starting to become more spiritual, but there was a period, in the last sort of 15, 20 years where if you spoke about it, that was, oh God, here we go, he's off on one again. Do you know what I mean? It was almost mocked, wasn't it? Having this idea of spirituality and stuff as being very, like you used the term earlier, airy-fairy.
Yeah, I mean, yes, and of course, there's plenty of crackpots everywhere in the world, including spirituality. In fact, I met some of ironically, some of the most dark people I've ever met have been in the New Age movement. It's very bizarre. And that's why I don't, I stay away from all of that. To me, astrology is a practical tool for timing. You can tell somebody when they're going to get pregnant, when the best time to buy the house, when the money's going to come, why things are bad, because there's always a reason. If there isn't black magic being practiced against somebody, there's always a reason for the problems, because the problems you can see in the chart, the challenges you're meant to go through in order to strengthen you and deepen you. But spirituality is the ultimate journey of the purpose of life. I mean, and believe me, you get to that point when you get in your 60s, you finally realize, well, what's the point of anything? And that's why I praise you again for saying what you said about Charles. This is a spiritual, we're all being awakened, waking up. In other words, the pandemic, in a sense, is a good thing. It's forcing people, the fake pandemic, to wake up and actually take responsibility for their lives and fight.
Yeah, it did.
I would just but this thing about the Archangel Michael, that's an absolute reality. And the warrior of the heavenly host, it's absolute. And I've never doubted that for some reason. But I know what you're saying when people were very skeptical at one point.
Yeah. Just finally, Gregory, where can people, say if people are watching this now and they're obviously very interested in what you're saying, and it's like kind of, I want to know what's in my chart. How do they get hold of you? Because I know you're back on Twitter now, because there was a period of time that you weren't there.
Yeah. I just had to take a break.
I know
so it's the same Twitter handle. Yeah, I know you. And by the way, commiserations again to you for your sister. That must have been very difficult for you. But she's with you, I assure you. My Twitter handle is @WatchItComeDown. Watch it come down. WatchItComedOwn. And they can email me at my email, which is harryhorse2024@gmail.com.
Perfect.
Or Atonement 2023 at proton.me. And it's always by referral. I don't have a website deliberately. I just, but what I want to say to your audience is that normally I charge £250 for a reading. And there's a full, people can email with questions afterwards as a report. But if they refer to seeing this interview, I'll do it for $175. And I want to just make a couple of predictions, actually. The Valentine's Day and the US election, those days are very explosive days in the global chart. In other words, you can see the chart of what's happening generally as well as what's happening specifically. And on Valentine's Day and on the day of the US election, there is a very high probability of an extremely volatile event happening, like a black swan event. And because it's in the sign of this is Mars conjunct Pluto. Mars is the god of war. Pluto rules the atom bomb and the ultimate power. They're together at the first degree of Aquarius, which is a sign of technology. That's why we're entering the age of Aquarius now. This is the revolutionary time. It could highly likely to be something like a cyber attack, or some kind of explosion. I'm just putting that out there. Because what happens is on Valentine's Day, it's the beginning of that cycle. On the day of the election, it's the ending of that cycle. So it'll be very interesting to see what occurs.
Yeah, absolutely. I'll bear that in mind. Cheers.
But we shall all be well.
And that's the important part that we need to keep focused on. That actually, if it's not all right in the end, it's not yet the end, is it?
No, it's never the end. And, laughter is so important. That's why I really praise you for that, too. Laughter is the most important thing.
Absolutely. Thanks, Gregory. It's great to chat to you again, mate.
All right. God bless you, man. Thanks for having me on.
Cheers, mate.